Matthew starts with Abraham. Luke opens with Caesar Augustus. Mark is already at the Jordan River before you can catch your breath. John goes somewhere else entirely. Before Bethlehem, before the stable, before Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word. Not in the beginning the Word was created. Not in the beginning the Word came to exist. Was already there. Before the beginning had a beginning. Now watch how John builds this in one sentence. 3 statements. Each one is impossible to walk back after the previous one. The Word was with God, distinct, in relationship. The Greek is pros ton theon, literally face to face. 2 persons in intimate presence, not separate, not identical, present with. And the Word was God. Not a second God, not a lesser derivative version, the same God. John doesn't explain how both are true simultaneously. He just states it. You don't explain the Son. You open the curtain. Then he continues, all things were made through him. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. Not just spiritual realities, not just souls and eternal things. Everything. The physical universe, the laws of motion, the chemical elements, the neurons firing in your brain as you process this sentence. All of it came through him. Every religion in human history gives you a founder with a birth date, a first breath, a biography. John gives you someone who never had a beginning. The author of time does not have a starting point in time. This is not a warm introduction to a wise teacher. This is the most extreme claim in human literature. And John is still on verse 3. We are the called, stay awake, stay with us. John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness hasn't overcome it. There came a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came as a witness, that he might testify about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but was sent that he might testify about the light. The true light that enlightens everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own, and those who were his own didn't receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become God's children, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. The Word became flesh and lived among us. We saw his glory, such glory as of the one and only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth. John wrote this at the end of the 1st century, most likely from Ephesus. His audience was split down the middle, Greek-speaking Gentiles who had grown up on philosophy, and Jewish believers who had grown up on the Torah. 2 worldviews in the same room. He picked one word that would land in both. Logos, the word. For the Greeks, logos was not just language. Heraclitus, 5 centuries before John, described logos as the rational principle holding all things together. Fire, water, opposites in tension. Logos was why existence didn't fall apart. The Stoics built entire philosophical schools on it. The universe was not chaos. It had an organizing intelligence, and they called it logos. But it was impersonal, cold, more like a law of physics than a presence. Something you could study, not something you could speak to. For Jewish ears, John's opening line did something entirely different. In the beginning. Those are the exact first 4 words of Genesis. not a stylistic echo. A direct signal, the same story continues here. In Genesis, God creates by speaking. And God said, "Let there be light." Not God reached down and assembled. He spoke, and reality followed. The Dabar Adonai, the word of the Lord, came to the prophets throughout the Old Testament. It was not a message that arrived and left. It was a presence. It came, and things were never the same afterward. Two great traditions, both circling the same thing for centuries, unable to quite reach it. The Greeks named it Logos and made it a principle. The Jews called it the Word of God and knew it had power. Neither had a face to put to it. John says, "You have both been trying to describe the same person. He isn't a principle. He isn't an impersonal force. He has a face. He had a mother. He ate bread. And you can ask him questions. His name is Jesus." Verse 14. Most translations say, "The Word became flesh and lived among us." But that last verb, lived, quietly flattens what the Greek is doing. The word is eskenosin, from skene, a tent. He tabernacled. He pitched his tent among us. This is not stylistic. This is theological precision that reaches back 700 years. When Israel was freed from Egypt, 400 years of slavery, every generation raised in captivity, they walked into the wilderness with nothing, no stable home, no permanent address, and God did not observe from heaven. He moved with them, in a tent, the tabernacle. Same Greek root. When the cloud of glory lifted from the tent, Israel moved. When the cloud settled, they stopped and camped. God himself in a tent, traveling through the desert with a nation that had never been free before. John uses the same word. He says, that presence, the one that dwelt in the tent and traveled through the wilderness with Israel, took on flesh and moved into our neighborhood. And then he says something extraordinary. We saw his glory. Not we believed in his glory. Not we were told about his glory. Saw. That's eyewitness language. The same glory that filled the ancient tent in the wilderness was now visible in a human face. Then verse 12. To as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become God's children. The Greek is exousia, authority, legal standing, the right to a new identity, permanently, not earned, not inherited through bloodline or national origin, not granted by any religious institution or human organization, given, directly, by him, to anyone who receives him. John says it 3 ways to make certain you don't find a loophole. Not of blood. Your ancestry doesn't decide this. Not of the will of the flesh. Your own effort doesn't decide this. Not of the will of man. No human structure decides this, but of God. That is the only source. 2 verses. The entire gospel. God came close enough to touch, and he made a way for you to belong to him permanently, a way that nothing and no one else could open. He was in the world. The world was made through him, and the world didn't recognize him, not didn't like him, not rejected him at first sight. Didn't recognize. He was present, walking through the same streets, breathing the same air, and they looked right past him. They lived in what he made, moved through a world that existed because of him, and had no idea who they were looking at. John isn't telling you what happened once, long ago, in one corner of the ancient world. He's describing a pattern that hasn't stopped. Here's what verse 10 forces you to confront. Knowing the name Jesus is not the same thing as recognizing him. The Pharisees knew his name. They had the prophecies memorized. They were professionals, trained their entire lives to identify exactly what John chapter 1 describes. They knew every word of the text you just heard, and they didn't recognize him. So the question John chapter 1 leaves you isn't, do you believe? That question comes later. The prior question is, are you paying attention? Because verse 12 is precise about what changes things. The right to become a child of God is given to those who receive him. That word is active. It is a decision made in the interior of a person. It is not ambient. It is not being in the general vicinity of Christian culture. It is not growing up in a church-going family. It's a yes, said from the inside. So leave this in the comments, and I genuinely want to know, what sentence from these 14 verses stopped you today? Not what you already knew about John chapter 1. What stopped you this time? Because this text has a way of saying something you've never heard before, even after you've read it 100 times. Every week, one passage. Uncut. Exactly as written. 66 books. We're still on the opening line, and it's already this deep. We are the called. Stay awake. Stay with us.